it's honestly very pathetic that we're supposed to be the best country in the world, this and that and this and that, but yet we have clearly fallen from what little grace that we've had, and we believe, and just like you said, when the election was officially declared, when the elective officials declared that Donald Trump was supposed to be the 47th president, was the next president of the United States, people fell for propaganda. They bit onto it like a fish and worm on a hook.
Yeah.
They bit it. They bit the fucker down. Didn't even ask questions. They bit it. And there's even people that like, you would think the first president, the first term would have said anything, especially how he handled the pandemic and the things that he handled before that and the things that he says. Nobody took that into consideration. And the present, and now look what's happening. He, I mean, we said this in the previous podcast about Project 2025 or Agenda 47, and with Roe versus Wade, they're not going to come after just Roe. They're going to come after Wade too. They already are doing that. They've been doing that. They're coming after literally everything that has that 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 people have been tried that fought hard in the previous and the when in Joe Biden's presidency to get back. And not only that, he's going beyond just that. Like he's literally stated it. He wants his people to be like North Korea. Like, they're like little freaking me NPCs, go, woo, Jim Calhoun, oh, yeah, even though the guy's a real piece of freaking shit, will literally arrest you for offing not without his permission, but he's the best man ever. Yeah, that's literally what Trump wants. He's literally stated that's what he wants.
Right.
And the thing with his this little birthday party with the freaking the army thing, whatever that was called. He blew so much money on that, but yet he's gonna stop the wasteful spending with Doge, and Elon Musk was supposed to be the horseman for that. Okay, yeah, we all saw how that went. That was like top 10 anime betrayals worthy of how that went right there. So it's it's it, it's ridiculous, and honestly, it scares me that I'm now a young adult trying to get my life started, and now, to be quite frank, I, I'm convinced that I may not live to see adult to like live a full adult life, because just people are nuts. It plain and simple. People are nuts, and they just say the most just outlandish things without any proof, and people will believe it without second guessing or trying to take other things into consideration. They hear it, if it's said, it must be true. um okay, really, in a world where there was so much misinformation and AI generated bullshit, that you're really going to believe what you see on the internet now? You really think you can just sit there and be like, yep, that's real? Because I know people that are like that. I'm like, how can you not just sit there and think, this could be bullshit I'm looking at? Like, I don't trust almost anything I see on the internet anymore. Like, almost nothing.
Yeah, and I mean
And
that goes pretty far where like if it's not taught to people, they have no idea. It's ignorance. It's not stupidity in all cases. It's just ignorance. They're not taught how
yeah,
to
and
find
and
out, you
and it
know?
scares them too to challenge a belief. It literally scares them to think to think in another perspective. It scares them.
I mean, they don't know what cognitive dissonance is. All they feel
Yeah, it
is
scares them.
uncomfortable. Yeah, it feels uncomfortable. Cognitive dissonance is in fact uncomfortable. But, you know, if they're not taught that, then it just feels uncomfortable and they think to themselves, well, I don't like feeling uncomfortable, so I'm going to lash out at that or I'm going to ignore it. Um, and that's sad. I'm just saying, like, it's doesn't make me hate those people. If they're coming after my family or people that I love, then go over and protect myself. But I think these people many people can be turned around um, from these really disgusting ideologies, but it takes education. We're talking like We need people speaking out and educating people as to what their actual political plight is. First off, it's like a lot of people don't even know anything about the means of production. Hell, whenever you mention Marx, people are like, "Oh, I'm going to go over and take a piece of cake, and then everybody else gets the rest of the cake or whatever." Like it's just stupid memes and absurd crap, and it doesn't root on the main core thing of the people who own the means of production are the ones who you as a worker are politically opposite of. Those people do not have your best interest at heart. It is built into the system. It's not like, you know, like the CEO of your job is just, I just want to exploit this person. Oh, yes. They're not, to them, and in many cases, yeah, I'm not saying there's nobody that does that. There probably is, but in most cases, these people just have no clue about any of this stuff. They're like, well, I'm just trying to get by and provide a better life for my family. And then there's people like Elon Musk who literally does probably know all of that stuff. I mean, he literally grew up in apartheid Africa. His his grandfather, you know, fomented a Nazi coup in Canada. So I'm willing to bet that that family knows about the means of production and knows what's going on there. But the majority of the quote unquote bourgeoisie, especially if they're small business owners, they're just a mom and pop shop trying to get by or whatever. Um, they don't know, man. They just think, well, this is what society told me to do, and that's what's despicable about it is that sucks. That there are better ways to have a society a more equitable way, and unfortunately, those people probably don't. A lot of them don't even pay attention to politics. They don't know how, even though they don't pay attention to politics, a politics affects them, and it's going to affect their families. I mean,
Hmm.
Gen Z can't even buy houses, unless you're
No.
like a software engineer or something. And even there, a lot of those jobs are getting gobbled up because of AI and different things like that. So society in and of itself, and it's not just like you can't just point at one single person. It's not an easy equation here. And that's where I get really burnt out on a lot of people in this sphere. This is where I want to bridge the gap. That's where the value is, in my opinion, in listening to the Fresh Squeeze podcast versus listening to another podcast where they're just literally reacting to stuff the entire time. I'm going to go over and we're going to go over and talk to you about like what the actual issue is and try to cut the fluff out because at the end of the day, tons and tons of people are either ignorant or they're lying to you. And unfortunately, I can't, the best that we can do is try to educate people of what their plight is, what we can do moving forward, how we can fight this without getting violent, right? Those are the things that we want to talk about here is how do we move forward? We can react to things and we can discuss what the current problem is, which is what this episode is. But in further episodes, we want to talk about what do we do? What we need to discuss as young people, which I'm 40 now, but or I guess on Tuesday I'll be 40. But so I'm not super young, but still, in the grand scheme of things, when you got a president that's in his late 80s, I'm young
Pretty
in
much.
comparison to these people, and I'm like the elder millennial in the room. We got to just start stepping up. We got to start stepping up and saying, okay,
Enough's enough.
we agree that violence is not the answer, but we're not going to just take this laying down. You
Yeah,
will
enough. Yeah.
give us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness because that's what this country should stand, all countries should stand for in a democratic society. And if we aren't meeting those broad concepts, for the most part, then the society has failed, because societies get judged by their outcomes. And what is the outcome right now?
Not a
It's
good
like
one.
1% of the population has more wealth than the entirety of the bottom 50% of the entire world, not just in the United
Hmm.
States, of the
Yep,
entire world.
the whole globe. Yeah, they literally are holding hostage a an alarming percentage of the entire world's wealth. Why would any person need that much?
Yeah. And
Why? Why?
it creates a situation. Here's the thing, it's like they're going to have some guys like what is that? I'm trying to remember the some of these business types. I It's like Gary something or other is what I'm trying to think of. But anyway, there's these business types, these influencer millionaires, right? That they're, oh yeah, I can take $100,000 and invest in this, and I'll make money every single time because capitalism
Mm,
rules or whatever. And what I'm gonna say is, a lot of them are essentially saying, well, this is just great. You just gotta pull yourself up by the bootstraps or whatever. That's just simply not as possible. Like, even if you had 1%, and that's even a high number, I would say it's going to be far less than 1%. But even if you had 1% of people who are able to be Gen Z and continue in the working class, and have a decent life where they can have a single family home and a car and go on a vacation. And I'm just saying, like, these are things that in the 1980s, for example, you could do. I mean, things weren't great. There were still issues then. In the 1950s, definitely could do it. And the reason is because people, and especially rich people, got taxed a shitload, and it was brought to the common good. And housing was subsidized by the U.S. government. A big old socialism, right? This is where people like Stephen Miller and these complete ghoulish cronies are going to say that immigrants are coming in here to take your jobs, and that's why you're feeling economic this and that. Immigrants, essentially, in the terms that we're talking about, are so poor in a general sense that they might as well just not even exist in the equation, right? You could literally leave them out of the equation, and you're not even going to round up to a single one number, period. If you put all of the immigrants in a pool, besides the really, really rich ones, like, freaking Palantir's CEO and Elon Musk, who are both immigrants. But I'm just saying,
mm-hmm.
like, the majority of immigrants who just work as working class that aren't capitalists, and you throw all them together, the amount of money that
They
they're
don't make a
making is
they don't make a
so
percent.
small, is so small that it couldn't possibly matter in the equation. You can literally take them out of it and just look at the rest of what is left behind in the equation, and you'd be better off. You'd get a
Wouldn't
better
change a damn
answer.
thing.
So that's what we really want to talk about on the Fresh Squeeze, is cutting through the bull crap. We're not going to go talk about blue MAGA and red MAGA, okay? Because that's what essentially Democrats are: make America great again this way, and Republicans are make America great again this other way. And neither of them accurately or honestly tell people the plight of the working class, which is that we are exploited for our labor, profits are stolen wages, and if you are financially stuck or financially not making it, it's not the fault of an immigrant. It's the fault of the guy who pays you your paycheck, or the guy who pays the paycheck of the guy who pays you your paycheck. You know what I mean? It's those people are the problem. And it doesn't mean that they're, like I said, I'm not pointing a target at a specific guy. It's just how the system is designed. This is how it works. And this was inevitable. It was going to happen no matter what anybody did, whether Kamala Harris was in, whether, Joe Biden was in, whether fucking Trump was in. All of this is a systemic, huge issue that has nothing really to do with those specific people. They are just a symptom of that system.
This reminds me, so there's this comedian named Scott Zeiss. He makes these really funny shorts on YouTube. I think he does TikTok too. Um, says that kind of says the same thing that you did about home buying, but he puts it in a more relatable and a more comedic sense. He's when I was your age, I owned a house. Yeah, because yours costed $12.
Yeah,
What you pay for your house today could even afford a Frosties at a airport Wendy's.
right.
He's like, have you doom scrolled Zillow lately? It looks like someone's cat got on the keyboard and pressed the zero key.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
it's
he's
just
like, well, by the
outrageous.
time I was your age, by the time of your age, the house, the sun would have exploded. So who needs a house?